opinions and experiences shared in this podcast are just that, our personal opinions and experiences, and may not reflect official standards of practice. This podcast does not take the place of professional therapy. If you are struggling with mental health, please reach out to a provider near you. The subjects discussed in this podcast may include trauma, abuse, alcohol and drug abuse, anxiety, depression, suicide, and other subjects that may cause emotional reactions. We may also use language not suitable for young ears. The purpose of this podcast is to have frank discussions about mental health in order to show people it's okay to think differently, give people power to change their own lives, and break down barriers between mental health professionals and the rest of the world. Thanks for listening.
Well, welcome back. This is the Good to Hear podcast. I'm your host, Melissa. I'm 28, a mental health therapist. And today I have with me...
I'm Allison. I am 25. Sorry, I forget sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
I'm 25. I'm also a mental health therapist, and I currently kind of specialize in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Ashley. I'm 30 years old. I am a stay-at-home mom currently.
Yeah. And to just one, right?
Yeah, just to one child.
Yeah, he's awesome.
One child and a cat.
Yeah. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about staying positive in this like COVID quarantine time. As of this recording, we are in week 2-ish of things being shut down and people being told to stay at home and kind of all the craziness that is happening. Not too terrible yet in our area. Just lots of encouraging people to take precautions, restaurants shutting down, bars shutting down, that kind of thing.
No groceries available. No toilet paper.
It's ridiculous. So Emily got toilet paper for us this morning, and she said it cost her $16. I know. Yeah. No, that's insane. I was like, okay.
Well, I have some extras if you guys, if you need anything.
It's insane. It's insane time. So we're going to talk today, this is going to be kind of part 1, about how we can stay positive during this time, because this is a very anxiety-provoking, distressing time for a lot of people. Like I said, it hasn't really hit too hard here where we're at. So I don't think that...
I think it's the prep and the panic around that.
Yeah. And a lot of the unknown. Like, we still don't know how exactly, like, new stories are coming out all the time about the symptoms and how it presents and what it is and what it can be. Yeah, so we're going to talk about staying positive, and what that means, and how we are personally approaching this period of quarantine and social distancing in a way that is not making us go insane. Yeah. So Ashley had, you and I actually had a conversation about this yesterday, about the importance of unplugging or like unfollowing certain people or groups on social media for
Staying off of social media and even YouTube, because you go to the front page of YouTube and it gives you all the well, maybe when you see the top news stories, just kind of scroll past that.
Yeah, well, because everyone's an expert right now.
Yeah,
everybody has an opinion about it, and
the titles of it are supposed to be eye-catching, so it has the most
emotional response.
Yeah.
Because I know I saw something where it was like, even now, like, they don't even go to the weather. It's just like COVID. It's like, it's freaking people out, because you don't know if it's raining, but you know that we have COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the numbers change every day, and I mean, for people that can be really worrisome.
I have someone on my social media feed who is constantly updating in her area. These are the numbers, and I'm just like, that is why.
Yeah, it's I mean, for some people, maybe it's helpful and it's good to know, but maybe not to that extent.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that for myself. I don't know. No. And I've had to unfollow certain people or certain groups, like the therapist groups that I'm in on Facebook. It's just everybody panicking about, it, because for us, we're supposed to be switching to teletherapy and using different things. But a lot of people don't have that already in place. Luckily, our practice does have that in place already, and we do that. But a lot of people don't. And in this time, of crisis, I don't know. I'm more of a like, let's do it and ask for forgiveness later because the important thing is that our clients are getting the service that they need. Let's worry about whether using FaceTime was appropriate or not later, because honestly, who is going to like get onto us for that? Our people need service.
I mean, your mental health is important, but your physical health as well.
Yeah,
so.
like we can't just stop. People's mental health isn't getting better suddenly. Like it's the opposite.
It's really the best way to serve both things. You need to keep them healthy. You need to keep yourself healthy.
Absolutely. And so they're just panicking about like, oh, is this HIPAA compliant? How do I bill this? And I get wanting to do it right, but quit panicking. Like do what you know how to do, and then if it becomes an issue later, we'll fix it later. Yeah. But right now, just do what you know how to do.
Because how can you really serve your clients if you yourself are panicking?
Yeah.
It's definitely like a do what feels good. Like, I definitely agree with what you're saying, just because it's like this, if you're not the calm one in the situation, you're going to create a bigger panic, because we do have like these lives in our hands, and you have to be able to be the rational one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because people can pick up on your own emotions too.
Yeah. No, like I have a client who's a teenager, and so she's out of school, which is terrible for her because she lives in a home that isn't all that great. Like it's not, she comes in and talks all the time about how it's not clean. She doesn't feel comfortable. She lives with her father, who is abusive physically, verbally, and is an alcoholic. So she is now with him 24/7. So, and they're a low-income family, so they probably can't afford the internet access that they need in order to do Zoom or one of those HIPAA compliant things. So we're probably going to FaceTime, because I can't leave her for 8 weeks or plus with her dad 24/7 with no outside help.
Yeah.
Like that to me is way more unethical than FaceTime.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a totally different subject. Sorry. Soapbox.
But it also makes me think like we've always been encouraged, especially because we're in private practice, we have so much more flexibility to, if we have to, literally meet them where they are, as long as it doesn't create a problem. So if you have to go to the park or wherever, especially because you still can practice social distancing there, let's do it. Versus, like you said, worrying about all the ethics. We're going to try to do the most good and worry about the consequences later if it's the wrong thing.
Yeah. So I had to unplug from those groups because I was just like going insane. And some of the comments that I wanted to respond with were not very positive, not very helpful or kind. And so I was like, look, no, let's just unfollow, snooze everything, and just get
Sometimes
off of
walking away is the best thing to do.
Yes. Because I also get that, like, when you're panicked about something, hearing somebody say, look, it's not that big a deal, is not helpful.
No.
So I'll keep my opinions to myself.
Sounds, until you convince yourself it's not that big of a deal, someone telling you it's not.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to minimize it, but you also don't have to catastrophize it either. Like, there's a happy medium.
Yeah.
Reality.
Yes.
Everything lies somewhere in the middle.
Yes. Yeah. But so unplugging, also in terms of like, if you have a friend who is super doomsday, you don't have to talk to them right now. If they're making you more anxious, you're allowed to distance from them.
Set healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that might be a family member too, that they're just really freaking out and making you freak out and feel worse. It's okay. Take some time, take some distance, because you don't have to subject yourself to that either. Because it's not good for either of you, because it is either going to pull you down or you're going to match that, and you guys are just going to build on each other.
Yeah.
And it's going to become so much worse.
Misery loves company.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about social media that's bugging me right now is like, there's a lot of people putting out stories about how I'm a COVID survivor, and that I find super annoying. But then they're also posting what may not be very accurate or true stories about how they are sick and went to go get tested and were refused to be tested for COVID. And it is because they tested positive for something else.
Like the flu.
Like the flu. Yeah. And so adding to this hype of there's not enough testing, people aren't taking this seriously.
Well, right
people
now the
aren't being
tests
treated.
aren't widely available.
Yeah. And so they can't waste it. You need to ride out what they think it is, like move forward as if it is the flu or whatever diagnosis it is that they gave you.
I think they're even telling you, like, if you don't have a pre-existing condition or
stay at home.
Yeah, stay at home. It's almost maybe call your doctor and be like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What should I do?
Yeah. I mean, if you can't breathe, go to the ER.
Please.
But like, if you just feel really shitty and sick, there's probably not a whole lot they can do. There's not a vaccine. There's not a cure for
There's
COVID.
not a vaccine. There's no meds that I know of, at least, yet.
Yeah. So at that point, if you post this on social media, you're just adding to the fear. And if you try to keep going to ERs, you're just sucking up service that other people could use.
And that is like creating a whole different issue.
Yeah. And that's the biggest concern, is that we don't have enough medical resources for the people who actually need them.
Yeah. And I think another thing with those like positive stories, and I know that this might sound like going against what this topic is about, but it's like I would rather hear the positive stories about the at-risk population versus us.
Yeah.
We're expected to recover,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh yeah, I went to the doctor, everything was fine. It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I want to hear the ones about like how your grandfather or your child recovered just fine, because those are the ones that needed the testing and the help anyway.
Yeah. And I do think, so that is one positive that's coming out of social media. In our area, I've seen a lot of people volunteering, like if you have an elderly person or if you're immunocompromised, let me go grocery shopping for you. Tell me what you need. I'll go get it and drop it off at your house. And so that's really nice. I think in a time of crisis like this, Americans do tend to come together a little bit more.
Check on your family members.
Yeah.
Don't visit them, but, like call them.
Right. Yeah. And so that is nice to see. And when you fully unplug, you don't get to see that either, but pros and cons, I guess, with that.
And I think another important part about unplugging is the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
That is probably what's creating one of the biggest problems.
Or just the spread of fake news.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. No.
Or people sharing outdated news. Like, oh, COVID isn't that bad. There's only 30 cases in the U.S. Okay, well, that information is from a month ago.
Right. Yeah. If you don't know the facts, just stop sharing it.
Yeah. If you really want to know the facts, you go directly to the sources, CDC, the HWO. Yeah. Unplug. Just turn it off. It sounds, I mean, even if you feel like you can't unplug all the way, like you said, unfollow the most problematic sources of it.
Yeah. If it's causing you anxiety, you don't need it.
Or if there's information that you think you might need, find someone you trust to be like, hey, can you let me know when schools are coming back? Can you let me know if a curfew's been put in place?
Like, I can't tell you how much misinformation was spread about when schools are getting out, when they're supposed to go back in.
How long they're out. Yeah.
Just causing lots and lots of confusion.
And I think that's another one of those things where it's like, definitely choose who you're gonna follow and unfollow or snooze or whatever. Yeah. But also like find that one news source, kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah.
And follow just that one. Like we're in Memphis, we probably want to follow the city of Memphis, maybe Tennessee, but there's no need for us to know what's going on in Idaho or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
we don't need to know what's happening in California or New York or.
Yeah. It's okay if they're shut down. It's okay if they have a curfew. It's not happening. If it's not happening in your area, just let it go, because there is nothing that you can do about it. And it doesn't really affect you. Maybe it affects a loved one, and that's why you want to pay attention. Yeah. But
that's different though. I mean.
I think in
but
times
also
of,
maybe keep up with your loved one instead of the news in their area. I'm
Right.
sure they're probably paying attention to the news in their area. So
right. I think in times of crisis like this, and like, crisis is the best word. You need to narrow down what you're focusing on, because you can't focus on all of it. You're going to get overwhelmed and panicked. So you just got to narrow your focus down and focus in on what can I handle? What can I take in? Because it doesn't have to be everything, and it can't be everything. And what can I control in my bubble, my area? And that's all you really need to worry about, because you can't do it all.
Don't hoard toilet paper though.
Oh my God.
Please.
Please don't.
Or diapers.
Or diapers, please. Don't hoard diapers. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about like what we feel like the difference is between shutting down and like going, la 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 to all the negative stuff and dissociating, and what it actually means to like focus on the positive, focus on what we can control. You want to?
Sure. So I know, like, I saw, of course, the memes on social media was like, seems like the people with anxiety are handling this pretty well. And I was like,
this is how you feel every day.
Right,
yeah, I've been preparing for this my entire life.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the reality of it is that while it isn't true for everyone, a lot of us might really be dissociating. We're not really paying attention to like the real problem. You know, I won't say how big the problem is or whatever, but we're not really like allowing ourselves to feel the emotions that are associated with. Like, it's okay to be afraid, worried.
Yeah.
And it's also okay to just be okay if that's really how you feel about the situation. But I think a lot of us are kind of moving on with our life, not even trying to pay attention to it, just because if we do, then we're going to feel the anxiety and whatever else might be created from that. And that is dissociation. We're not even trying to deal with it at all.
Yeah. And then to me, that sounds like later on down the line, you're just making the situation worse for yourself.
Very possible.
Yeah, when it finally does hit you.
Yeah.
And all those feelings
it's going to hit you hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if you try to minimize, like, oh yeah, everybody's running out of tissue, I'll be fine, and it's like you have one roll.
Yeah. It's a very
Suddenly
practical
it's
example.
like,
Yeah, maybe I should have paid attention.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to panic buy, but you don't have to act like nothing is going on around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do the things that they're recommending you to do. You know, there is a whole, and I hate this, the whole video about the spring breakers and their response to things. Like, that would be a good example of dissociation. Like, pretending like it's not a big deal and it's, you know, not affecting you in any way. Yeah. You got some responsibilities, even if it's not directly affecting you. Because people in the spring breaker age right now, no, it's not life-threatening. It's not going to hurt you all that much. But you have a responsibility to the other people around you. And if you're pretending like nothing's happening, nothing's wrong, you're harming the people around you.
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason why we're doing social distancing is not, you know, because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to protect everybody.
Yeah.
And someone's in there saying, yeah, you know, well, the flu is worse than this. I'm like, okay, well, the flu... We have so much more information on the flu. We have the flu vaccine, and people don't get that half the time. I mean...
That's true. I did not this year. Oops.
But like you said,
you can still go get it.
Yeah.
There's enough information about the flu to where you could get the flu, not go to the doctor, and be fine because there are over-the-counter meds for it.
Yeah.
There are like...
There are prescription meds. You can call the doctor and, let me get you a prescription for some Tamiflu.
Yeah.
But for this, it's kind of like...
We don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of cases right now because it's brand new.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah. And this would, you know, the reaction that's happening now would be similar, I think, to when the flu did first come out.
Yeah.
And...
If it first came out in modern times, yeah.
Yeah. Because I cannot imagine, without all of our technological advances, how something like this could have more rapidly taken effect and harmed way more people. So, again, something else. Positive. Staying positive. Yeah. So, actually being positive, I think, would be, you know, focusing, and I feel like a broken record, but like focusing on the things that you can control. What can I do with this time? Because I think that with all this quarantine stuff, with having to spend so much time at home or to ourselves, I think it gives us a very unique opportunity to rest or to focus on other things that we didn't have time before, because American culture is very go, go,
go, always.
Yeah. And like, I think, and I told a client this the other day because she was complaining about, you know, how she's been sleeping a lot more and she's just been hanging out watching Netflix. I was like, say that this quarantine ends May 1st and you got to go back to work. Can you imagine how hectic work is going to be? Like, you got to have a lot of things to catch up on. And suddenly now being around all these people again, and there's going to be so many things that you want to do. After a couple weeks, you're going to look back and be like, thank God I had all those weeks to just chill and be still and be quiet and not do a ton of things. And so thinking about it in that perspective, right, it's like taking advantage of this time that you have versus whining and crying about how boring it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about that because even though I'm still essential, so I still have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I have books on my table that have become decoration. It's
Yeah.
like I actually could take time to read those books.
Yeah.
Or like the 1,000 Netflix series that people have recommended. I can stop lying like I watched them and actually can spend time watching
Stop
Netflix.
Googling what happened in episode 2 now.
Yeah.
Right. I can go back and binge watch shows that I have watched and re-enjoy those. It's like so many things that you actually can do with this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's truly not a terrible time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's not like we've been called up to war or anything.
No.
Yeah. We just have to be still, which, again, in American culture is awful. we don't know what to do with that. It's the the whole meditating thing. We have to
And certain personalities, especially.
yeah, and certain personalities for sure. Like the idea of staying at home. Like, I don't stay home during snow days. I can't do it.
It's like if someone tells you have to stay home, you're like, I have to leave
I have to
now.
leave. Yeah, it is very difficult.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, yes, I just
yeah.
whatever.
So, but that for me is why it's so important for me to shift perspective and reframe and like, okay, this is a time that I can just rest or do the crap around the house that I have always said that I was gonna do, but
that you've
haven't.
been putting off. And
Yeah. And like, we're getting ready to set up a nursery, so I'm just like super excited to do all the organizing things and
all the pretty things.
yeah, and like, because my work schedule is 9 or 10 a.m. till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then I try to go to the gym. I don't have a whole lot of time. Weekends are my only time, and so it is kind of nice to
If you're
know
not working on the weekend.
if I'm not working weekends. Yeah. So it is kind of nice to have this extra time. And so every time I think, oh my God, I'm so bored, I'm like, no, this is really nice. Like, this is what you wish for when you are so busy that you just have some time to sit and chill. Yeah. And the, home improvement stores around here have been apparently super busy. So I'm not the only one with that idea. Yeah. But you have a lot of practice staying at home.
Yeah.
And being by yourself even with a toddler.
Yeah. Mine is actually kind of contradictory because, I basically lost my job several months ago. And so going from doing something every single day and coming home absolutely exhausted, 'cause my job was very physical and social. And I get exhausted from a lot of socializing.
Yeah.
I get exhausted.
You're an introvert, yeah.
Yeah. But then, losing my job, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm at home. I'm not doing anything. Oh, this is great. But then after like a month, I'm like, I started feeling kind of depressed, honestly, because I was sitting there doing nothing, and I'm like, I'm here all day. Why have I not washed the dishes? Why have I not done laundry? I'm literally just sitting on the couch doing nothing.
I hear that a lot from stay-at-home moms, though, is that at first it's good, and then after a little while, it's like the most isolating, depressing thing they've experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why, for me, I started working out at home, and that has made a huge improvement in my mood.
Yeah.
Just being able to do something productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you started, now it's a little nicer, getting out and taking your kid to the park.
But it would stop raining every day. It'd be fabulous, and decide what season it wants to be.
Yep.
It's 45 degrees today.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of back and forth on whether you should be taking the kids to the parks right now. Some people are like, yeah, it's fine. Other people are
I mean, the other day I didn't take him to the park just because it was so wet, but we did take a walk around the neighborhood, and we have a backyard. Take him out in the backyard.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you mentioned how like you started working out at home, and like you and your child are going out and being active. Like those are ways that even all of us, even the non-stay-at-home moms, like we can still like try to stay positive, especially like with people who are like diehard gym fanatics. It's time for us to learn how to make the living room our gym. Which is hard.
YouTube is your friend. I mean, there's millions of workout videos on YouTube, and it's free. So
Yeah, well, and like personally, I've been telling myself, oh, I'll get back into yoga, and of course, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna start going to the Shelby Farms yoga class. Nope, can't do that. But there are tons of videos on YouTube. I have a ton of videos saved on YouTube for doing yoga.
Now is the time to go through your playlist and work through some videos.
Right, and I always say, oh, I'll do yoga, but then it's like I said, my week is always crazy busy, and then I work most Sundays, and so Saturday is really my only day, and so I'm either going out and doing social things or doing nothing on purpose, and so I still don't do it. So now that I can't go to the gym, it might be time to break out the yoga stuff, or I don't know, for anybody, any skill that you've been wanting to learn or do better. I keep telling myself I'm gonna learn Spanish. That hasn't happened.
I finally cleaned my makeup brushes.
There you go. See? All the things that you keep telling yourself you'll do. I think
I have like 3 rooms in my house I still need to paint.
Yeah,
so
yeah. See, I don't know. I think if we can shift our perspective a little bit and reframe some of our negatives into this is a time where I can do these things, that we could probably come out of this quarantine a little bit better than when we went in.
Yeah. If we just think about all the stuff that we've been putting off, we'll definitely be way better off.
Yeah. So what are some things that you've been putting off that you want to do? Netflix.
I think first I should start with folding the clothes.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
And putting them away.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. Definitely reading, because I used to love reading, and I will still buy books and never read them. So they're just waiting on me to open them. They probably still have like the book receipt in it and everything. So yeah, things like that. I just started back into the flow of working out, and then the gym's closed. So I was gonna take that time and be like, well, guess I won't do that. Like, another one bites the dust. But I went ahead and
gyms are germy on a normal day, so
but I was proactive, and I actually went and bought like kettlebells and like a big like yoga ball or whatever you call those things. So like I can no longer make excuses because I'm in the house. I have everything I need. All these tasks waiting on me to finally get to them. So I'm getting to them.
Yeah. And like you can find those things at like Five Below, Target Dollar Spot. But some of the people that I follow on Instagram who do fitness stuff, they've been doing a lot of like use this stuff. Yeah. Or use the stuff around your house, like a 5-pound bag of flour.
A chair.
Or all that toilet paper you've hoarded.
Yeah.
Use that as weights, because there is a lot of the stuff that you can do where you don't need full gym equipment, but we tell ourselves that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you don't want to go out to the store and buy things because you're trying to be good and stay away from people.
Save money.
Yeah, save money.
Yeah.
That's definitely important right now.
And that's another part of like perspective changing and reframing is don't focus on what you can't do. Like if you have this goal and it's becoming more difficult to do, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. You just have to shift how you approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like working out is a great example. Get out and walk. Work on your run.
Yeah.
I always suck at running. That's probably a great time for me to work on that. Or yoga. Yeah. Reading. Read up on stuff that you've always wanted to read up on, or just do it for fun again.
Yeah.
Grad school definitely killed my enjoyment of reading for fun. So, yeah. I mean, I got pregnant and I was like, oh, I'm going to be on top of it. I'm going to read all these books, and I bought a bunch of books. I haven't read a single. That's it. That's not true.
I have to say, you have a book that has highlights and everything in it that I gave you. So.
Yes, I have read one.
But I did tell you that was like the most important one to read. So
yeah. So Yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do.
Yeah.
What about you? What are painting your house?
Yeah, painting my house. I mean, like you said, I have lots of practice with sitting at home and doing nothing, but
Yeah. So, well, okay. So you have a younger kid.
yeah,
Um,
I have a toddler.
yeah. So you're not having to deal with like the whole being out of school thing. Do you feel like this quarantine thing has changed much about y'all's schedule or routine?
The only thing that's really changed is that my husband's working from home now, and I really thought that was going to be difficult. He's only been home for like 4 days, but because my son, as you know, absolutely loves his daddy and is attached to him at the hip, I really thought it was going to be a big deal. Luckily, you know, he has an office. He has a room to himself where he can shut the door, and as long as he's in there first thing in the morning and the door is shut, my son's fine.
Yeah.
With that.
That's good.
So that's gone really good. The only thing that's really changed for us is my son does go to my mom's house 1 day a week, and she is still working, and she works in retail, and she's around hundreds of people every day, and I'm kind of at that point where I have to decide if I need to keep my son from going to see his grandma just for the possibility of being exposed.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, am I being overly cautious or, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation I have to have.
yeah, for sure. Because, like you said, both your parents are still working and being around.
He's not around my dad so much, but my dad is
home
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be the biggest toll on parents, is that your access to support is like gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure everyone loves their kids, but no one can be around their kids 24/7 for a long period of time, because that's just a lot of responsibility on you. Like these little humans need so much from you all the time.
Yeah, mama needs a timeout sometimes.
yeah. It's nice when the kids go to school or go to grandparents or go to Mother's Day out.
Yeah.
So you can get a little bit of a break and just focus on you for a minute, because it is very demanding and they're very needy.
There are times my son goes to bed and then the cat wants to get in my lap. I'm like, dude, no. I
Can't
need
be touched anymore.
I need time to be nothing to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, and even I feel that sometimes. I'm not a parent and working in a job where people need you constantly.
Yeah.
You need some time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so it's going to be difficult to keep those boundaries. I've already had trouble keeping boundaries, and I'll if a client's texting me, I'll just text them back, whether or not we have a session, or it might be a Saturday morning or Friday evening or whatever.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, because I want to be there for them. And I think that is a big issue with working from home. I've talked to a lot of my clients about that, is how are you keeping that separate? You have to have a schedule for, this is when I'm going to start working. This is when I'm going to take a break. This is when I'm done working.
Yeah.
And this, quarantine or not, if you work from home, you've got to have a schedule.
Yeah.
For when you...
My husband's done really good for that, though. He still gets up at his normal time. He goes into the office. Now, he does have a little more free time. He can, come out if I'm like, hey, can you come out and help me with such and such for a minute? He's been able to do that. But for the most part, 7:30 to 4 like he normally would be.
Yeah, but I think it's so easy.
He's lucky, though, because he has a separate space. Yeah. For people who don't have that designated space, I know it's probably a lot more difficult.
Yeah. And because he does IT stuff, I'm sure it would be so easy to just work from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed.
Yeah.
Because you can just do things.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's working, but he can also have YouTube up and watch videos and things a little more freely at home too. That was his only issue, is that he was like, it's hard to be bored. Mm-hmm. He's like, I get bored at work easily, but there's not really anything I can do. But then I'm at home and there's a lot of distractions, so.
Yeah. What about you? How are you keeping boundaries?
Well, that has always been my thing. So, but I have kind of noticed that as far as my communication, I have started to take more time to respond to people, especially if it's related to this. Just because I need that time to myself to kind of gather my thoughts and kind of think about everything that's going on, but also they might be like in that headspace of the world is ending. And it's like, okay.
Do you think that when you take time to respond to them, like it also gives them time to reflect on what they've
definitely
text you about?
Yeah, because I think even on a regular day and something not so serious, sometimes we send a message and we realize I didn't have to send that. Or, this is stupid. Or, oh, I have the answer. You know.
Yeah.
And then by the time you respond,
So maybe I should have taken a minute before I said anything.
Like, have you ever sent a text and it's like, ignore that?
Never mind.
Are you sure?
Sorry.
Yes.
So yeah, I've definitely have noticed that I've been taking more time to actually to pause and then like go and respond to people.
Yeah. I think if we move fully over to teletherapy, I'm gonna have an issue with like if a client's like, oh, I can only meet at 9:00 tonight. Okay. Which is terrible. And I used to do that just in person anyway.
Yeah.
And so I need to maintain that boundary. But I don't know, you want to be there for people and you want to help.
Yeah. I think you're much better at setting boundaries professionally though than you are personally.
Oh yeah. That's good. Yeah, no. It's hard for me to say no to people, but I'm getting better. Getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what else? What else can people do to stay positive in all of this? Social distance.
Social distance, but still be social.
Yeah. So I know I've saw like a few videos, and I think some might have been like for work, and some might have been like for class. As well as I saw some social media challenges too. But people are taking advantage of like the Zoom, the group FaceTime, and things like that. So we're all in our home, but we're still together. So it's things like that. Well, maybe you don't want a group FaceTime, but maybe you do.
Yeah.
And you guys can still kind of meet up in those type of ways. You're not just because you're not like physically in the same space, don't mean that you can't still have a good time with each other.
Yeah. We live in an incredible time of technology.
Yeah.
And to be able to be connected in the way that we are, even on a normal day, is amazing. And the response from a lot of companies now, where they've made a lot of things free,
companies have, I think, responded really well.
Very well, yeah. Like they're putting movies out that haven't even premiered in theaters for people to watch,
or ones that just came out.
Yeah,
it's almost because theaters, a lot of places are closed.
Yeah. And so you can hop on, like Facebook and start a watch party. You can hop on YouTube.
Netflix has that now too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
See? Yeah, so you can be connected with people and still, be apart. And I think anyone who's done long distance, they're like, been there, done that.
I guess we kind of had experience with this anyway, because I'm just thinking of the difference between the relationship you had with your grandparents growing up and then the one that Nolan has with his grandparents who live in another state. Yeah.
Being able to Skype or Facebook portal or whatever it is with people, even just being on the phone with somebody these days.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, you can text people. That's awesome for me. I don't like calling.
Right.
I don't like
I
talking
want to be
to
on the phone with you.
Yeah. I do actually call your grandparents though, because they really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, I remember growing up, you couldn't be on the phone very long because then nobody else in the house could do anything.
Yeah. If someone was on the internet, there's no getting on the phone.
Yeah, so that's another way to
unless you cheated and kicked them off.
reframe and think positively about the situation is that we have so many advantages right now. We have so many ways to keep ourselves busy or to stay connected, even though we have to be physically apart from each other. We don't have to be emotionally apart or end all communication. Even if
you're someone that needs that social connection to people, it's available.
Check, and I see all those memes. Check on your extrovert friends, but for real.
They're losing it.
Introverts have prepared for this.
And we talked a little bit about people who can't sit still, who always need something to do. This is a great time to sit down and think about what travel plans have you always wanted to plan? What business?
Don't necessarily travel right now.
Just plan it.
Just plan it
sit
out.
down and figure it out.
Yeah.
Budget for it and figure out what that's going to be.
Yeah.
learn about the place you're going to go to. Take the time to be purposeful in that. Or if there's a business that you've always wanted to start, like figure that out, because there's tons of resources out there. You just have to, it's just a time suck to figure out how to get it going.
If there are crafts and things that you've been wanting
Yeah.
to do, go through your closet and pull out your craft stuff.
Right.
And
Hang up the pictures on the wall.
Yeah,
from
hang
your
up
wedding
pictures.
3 years ago.
maybe declutter some of your stuff that you've been meaning to go through.
Yeah.
And
You
just
have a
haven't
yard
had the
sale,
time to. Yeah.
but-
Well, no, don't have a yard sale.
Yeah. But
We joked about that yesterday.
rats.
Leave the money at the door.
Right. But they're like, think about the stuff that you can do in this time. And I like I said, I feel like I'm saying that over and over again. But there are so many good things that are happening during this really crappy, scary time. And if you just shift your perspective and not focus on the doom and gloom of it all, you know, the whole radical acceptance thing, like, this is happening. If the city shuts down, it's going to shut down. And
I mean,
amount of
I think what's important to remember, though, is that this is temporary.
Yeah.
This is not how it's going to be forever.
Right.
We may not go back to exactly how we were before, but the current state we're in is not going to last forever.
Yeah, yeah. And no amount of you, like, freaking out or saying it's unfair or saying you don't want it to happen is going to change anything.
Yeah.
So you just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another great thing you kind of made me think of it was a lot of people always want to like restart after something like this. So this is like the best time to sit down and realign your goals, because you probably are now realizing that none of the stuff that you planned for this year is going to happen that way, just because we're about to have like at least a month of our lives taken away from us because of this.
Yeah.
And that's like a month where we probably really could have been productive. Probably were procrastinating on a lot of things.
I mean, spring's getting ready to start. A lot of us have been holed up for the winter, and this is where you would get out and about and do things.
Yeah. So it's like while we're in the house and we're reflecting, I also start to think like, okay, so the goals I set this year, if you set goals, are they still feasible? Do I want to kind of change them because now I have a new perspective on life?
Like a quarter year resolution.
Yeah.
Like
Revised resolution. Something.
We all should have like a mid-New Year party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have Skype New Year's parties. There you go.
Right. And like you said, this is probably putting some things in perspective for you. Is what I thought was important to me as important now?
Yeah.
Because it may not be. You may want to, instead of going to, I don't know, on a cruise, you may be like, man, I almost lost my grandparents.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to go see them instead. And maybe there are some different perspectives. Or, you know, you're like, I wish I could have done more during this time. And so you change up your career goals. Maybe you want to go back to school. Who knows? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can happen in this time. There's something else. You said something that made me think of it, and then I just lost it.
It'll come back.
I hope so.
We'll finish this, and you're like, oh, yeah.
That's what it was.
She put it in the notes.
Yeah. I try to take notes, and then I forget.
I took notes, and I didn't bring them, so.
I didn't take notes, so here we are.
This brain of mine. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do, a lot of ways you can shift your perspective. And this is also not the time to stop taking care of yourself. If you see a therapist, don't stop seeing them.
Or if this has just affected you way more than you thought it would, maybe this is the time for you to start therapy.
Yeah. Take the time to just like figure this stuff out. And, you know, you don't have to go to work after you go to a session. You don't have to, you have to deal with your family, I guess. No. But there are ways now that are different from before that you can take the time to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't stop taking care of your physical health. Like, don't just, because I think when people get in this like catastrophizing mode and this depression mode, they stop taking care of themselves.
It's really easy to just lay in bed all day and
keep showering.
It makes it worse.
Eating, keep taking your medicine. Focus on like
sure. Keep taking your meds.
Yeah, this is temporary. This will end. We will go back to normal life, as normal as possible. And
don't depend on alcohol or anything either. I know it's probably really easy right now for people to just be like, oh, I'm at home.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, let's day drink.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
No,
5 o'clock
it's a
every hour.
slippery, it's a
Right.
slippery slope, and
Yeah.
I mean, alcohol is a depressant, and if you're
Mhm.
already feeling
Yeah.
pretty crappy, that's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna help you out any.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And like a general kind of disclaimer here, right? We understand that this is not a positive time for a lot of people. There are some terrible things happening because, like I said, with my client, she's at home with this parent who is not healthy. And there are a lot of people who are now being forced to be at home with unhealthy people. And that sucks. And definitely don't try to force yourself to see positive if you are in a situation like that, because I don't know, that's setting yourself up for failure. There may not be much positive. And so what I encourage is to focus on the neutral. Like things aren't going too terribly. I will get through this. Like I can go walk outside.
Yeah.
You can get away from the situation for a little while at least. And so again, focusing on what you can control and trying to just make the best of it as best you can.
Yeah.
And that made me think. I had a client where this really did kind of turn her world upside down because she had to work 2 jobs. She's low income. Both jobs are impacted by it. She can't work from home because of the fields that she in. So she is actually out of a job. Doesn't know if she'll be able to apply for unemployment, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it takes so long to even hear if you get unemployment or not. I've been there.
Yeah, we might actually be able to go back to work by the time she gets approved or even into the process.
Yeah.
If they leave the offices open for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is one of the things. You have a car, you might have to start doing, the like Ubers and things like that.
Yeah. And there are a lot of retail places that are hiring temporarily too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like restocking and unloading. So it may not be a job that you want, but
a
like,
lot of them are paying pretty good. So
I was gonna say I've saved a few just in case.
Yeah.
Because we're self-pay based, and so if people can't afford it, like I'm not gonna be upset about that. Like I get it, but I've got to get income too. So I might go stack boxes over to Aldi's. That's just what you got to do.
And that is, like I said, more so like a neutral view on it. Like, I'm not going to act like it's the best thing, but it's definitely not the worst thing either.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing what I can to, like, stay afloat or sane or,
Yeah. So not everybody's situation is going to be like, oh, I get to just spend all this time working out and reading.
Sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
But
Yeah. And you might be in a situation in which doing these things makes it a lot more difficult, but difficult doesn't mean impossible. And so it is just a lot of mind game to put yourself in the position of, okay, I can do this. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck, but I can do this versus fuck it. Everything sucks.
Everything right now, everything is temporary.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I know for me personally, like money is a huge anxiety trigger, and being without a job and
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah.
Scary time. Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Well, we went all over the place. Lots of ideas. Lots of oh God, what is the word? Suggestions. So yeah, focus on the neutral, focus on the positive, shift your perspective, unfollow people if you need to, disconnect from people if you need to. It is a unprecedented time, so do what you feel like you need to do in order to make it out on the other side as healthy and together as possible. And if anyone in your life has an issue with that, then maybe they don't need to be in your life. Yeah.
Don't you have a video about healthy boundaries
Soon.
coming out soon? Yeah. So it's be a good time to review that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got any last thoughts? I don't know.
I mean, honestly, just the same thing I've been saying. Remember, this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all just doing what we can. So just my biggest thing is just make sure we're actually like living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is like our truth, and just try to find the positive or, like you said, the neutral in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, stay here now. Don't try to live in the past, how things were, and don't try to live in the future.
Because
like,
none
what
of
is
us
going
know.
to happen.
Yeah, none of us know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. As I tell my clients all the time, if you got a time machine, please let me know. If you got a crystal ball, please let me know.
Yeah.
Because I can help you make millions.
Yeah.
But we don't have those things. So don't live in a future that you have no idea about, and
Yeah.
don't live in a past that you
can't
go back to.
change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here and now. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening and watching and all that good stuff. Like I said, this is part 1. We're gonna do another one with some more perspectives and get some more ideas out there, because always a crazy time. So stay safe and all that good stuff, and hopefully this will be over soon. Bye.
Bye.